given all of this stuff, what basic things come out of it that you need to know? Okay? There are fundamental metaphors that are dangerous. One of them that are pervasive and dangerous. One of them is that nature is a resource for human beings. Now that's not always false. The question is whether it's sustainable or not. It's not bad that it's a resource, but it's not a resource to be destroyed for human profit or eliminated or taken out of existence for human profit, right? But it's seen as that. It's used up. Nature is a resource to be used up for human profit, as opposed to just being used. Being used, fine. Used up, not fine. Right? Very important distinction. And yet that metaphor is all over the place. Right? Now, there's a further thing that you need to be aware of about economics. And it's a basic metaphor in economics that's an important metaphor that is real, that is that structures. By the way, metaphors are not just things added to things. Metaphors constitute morality. They constitute all kinds of things. They're constitutive of how we think. Money is fungible, right? What does that mean? It means that losing a debt is equivalent to gaining an asset, right? So if I owe somebody something and they cancel the debt, that's the equivalent to them my earning the money for canceling the debt, right? Right? So, it's like a double negative. Losing something from one column is like gaining it in the opposite column. Okay? Money is fungible. That is really important in all kinds of ways, because what you're doing when you're doing cost-benefit analysis, you may often forget that resources are valuable, and this is crucial. Let me give you an example of this from what should be the way to do constraints on the use of carbon-based fuels, but isn't so far. There's, by the way, a very interesting book you should read called Capitalism 3.0 by Peter Barnes. And what Barnes says in the book is the following. He says, who owns the air? We do. We all do equally. Okay? What follows from that? Right? A, that's a metaphor, and it's constitutive. Now notice that the idea that you can own land is also a metaphor. And by the way, I don't know if you understand, there are a bunch of legal metaphors that are important. Let me, before I go into this, you need to understand that law is based on metaphor. Right? What is property in property law? Property is a bundle of rights. Right? That's the metaphor. What's in the bundle of rights? Rights of access, rights of extraction, if it's real property, if it's land, rights of transfer, and rights of use. And you can sell rights of extraction, rights of access, rights of transfer, and rights of use. Each of those is a right that is itself, the definition of what property is in the law. Okay? That's what the law says. There's a further metaphor in the law. A corporation is a person and in America has First Amendment rights, freedom of speech, etc. Disaster, because corporations that can then spend all they want on ads promoting their ideas. Okay. So what you have, on the other hand, is a good thing about it, which is you can sue corporations if they're persons. So there's, these are metaphors that are constitutive of law, right? And they're constitutive of all kinds of things. So Barnes comes along and he says, look, corporations are commonly dumping their pollution in the air. What does that mean? It means they're not paying the cost of getting rid of their pollution. Well, since money is fungible, not paying the cost of getting rid of their pollution is making a profit. right? They make a profit by not paying dumping fees. Well, who would they pay dumping fees to? You and me, because they're dumping things in our air. So Barnes comes along and he says, look, if you want to deal with global warming and you want to lower the amount of carbon dioxide in the air by 80% in 40 years, what you need to do is this. Look at the corporations that put carbon-based fuel into the economy. Not the people who burn it up, but the people who put it in. And then make them buy pollution permits. 2% less permits per year. And then what happens is that Exxon and Chevron have to compete to buy permits to sell their fuel. But if you do that, then there's less carbon-based fuel to burn each year, 2% less. But companies can predict exactly how much there will be in the future. And you create a permit market where people can buy and sell these permits. But in addition to that, he says, who gets the money from the auctioning of these permits? They should all be auctioned. Every year there's an auction. Who gets the money? The answer is we do. Every citizen should get the money equally. Okay? What does that mean? It means it should come into your bank account by computer transfer with a little thing that says, this is your dividend for owning the air. Think about that for a minute. People might get the idea that they own the air. Every month it comes into their bank account. Dividend for owning the air. All right? This is not just an economic or material proposal for getting rid of carbon-based fuels. It is a proposal for changing people's brains. Now, when I say changing brains, I'm speaking very, very literally. You can't get a new idea without your brain changing. All ideas are physically there. Right? How does that happen? It happens because when you learn something, synapses change in your brain. So before you learn it, you have certain circuitry, and some of the circuits, some of the neural connections, aren't doing a whole lot. They're sort of alive. They get nutrients and so on. They don't do much. They're just there, connected. Some of those things, when you learn something, the synapses change when you're using them. If they happen to be connected to the right stuff, they'll be used over and over. The synapses will be strengthened, and you'll get a new circuit. But the new circuit is not a new neural connection. It is strengthened old connections. Right? And how does that happen? All right? How is it possible for the firing of a neuron to strengthen the connection? All right? When a neuron fires, what does that mean? It means ions are passing, charged particles are passing in a synaptic cleft from neuron to neuron, and then on the other side there are receptor molecules that latch on to those ions. Now, when that happens, when you have charged particles moving, you get a magnetic field. If there's a lot of them, you get a strong magnetic field that can attract receptor molecules from nearby sites if they're not being used a lot. That means they get stronger. It's physics, right? If you took sophomore electromagnetism, which I did at MIT, you will learn that it's basic physics is telling you that that's how brains learn. Not by building new connections, but by strengthening old ones. Okay? You're learning all the time.